Alrighty, guys. It is 3:30 this Monday, March 31st, last trading day of the month, last trading day of the quarter. And so far, I had to say it's surprisingly strong little rally we got going here. It still feels very much like a short squeeze kind of a rally. Could be end of the month buying going on based on these low prices. But I'm just waiting for them to kind of lean in on the short side. Now the 2 o'clock hour changed a little bit dynamic a little bit. That little run up here we had late in the session kind of probably kind of shook out some of the last holdouts. So I think we're pretty neutral now in terms of people sitting on short positions, but it's still, I'm not quite believing it in terms of a long-term outlook. So far, you can't argue. The market has been squeezing this to the upside in a hard way. Now, we started off with a pretty shitty opener. We were way down here. We gapped down. We started opening. We started way lower. We were all the way down here to the 55.30s, and it looked pretty gnarly. And then finally, right at the open, it ran it hard to the downside. And since then, it's been as a steady grind to the upside. Steady, steady, steady grind. And surprising at least surprisingly strong from the way I was looking at it. I was watching this area, the 5600 and 5615s as the last the resistance areas which I've most likely would most likely hold. Hadn't held. They have been taking those out, and you can see here in K period that's the 2 o'clock hour. As you move out of the middle, they were stalling here for a bit. Another intraday move out of the middle to the upside, and we are right up here in this upper range from Friday. They were trading in on Friday. So yeah, man, I'll take it. That's not a bad signal to have a little bit of buying interest like this. But starting off this morning, we were in a shitty spot. Look at that. We were down here. The open took it all the way down to that 55.30, 55.35s. And then we were right back up again from there, and then haven't really quite looked back from there. It's been a bit of rotations back and forth. We started off trading this from the short side of the market, and I would say I'm still looking for short opportunities. I'm not quite believing this rally as being a significant starting point of a rally. It is end of the quarter though, so you never know if this is how the beginning of the next quarter is going to begin. But I took one trade early on, and that was after the first rundown, the first mean green trade looked like they were not quite a failure at the mean. They ran a little bit higher, a little bit lower. This is the first real retest we got of a level early on, and I waited for that second retest before I hopped on a short trade, repaired it once. I got kind of close to my stop, and then I got out of it when I got an opportunity, and I'm glad I did because I got 48 bucks out of that trade, and just to watch this whole thing keep grinding higher. I have not re-engaged it since because I could not make up my mind here if I want to be on aggressive on the short side. There had been a few short opportunities, but they're not big, and so far that's kind of squeezing you. Unless you get good trade location, you'll be just stuck in a shitty trade, and yes, you had to kind of work it from there. If you traded it from the long side of the market, same story there. Unless you got really good trade location and were willing to step in front of it on the way down, you're at this exact same spot. You get a bad trade location, you get stuck, and you get shaken out. Now, I was hoping between the London close here and the 2 o'clock hour. I mean, you can see how we're going sideways and sideways. So at this point, I was expecting them to fail at one point and start trading lower. But look at that pop at 2 o'clock hour at the 2 o'clock. That's totally changed that dynamic. So we are back on the long side in terms of in the short term, just to see how far they can squeeze it. But I'm just watching it. We're getting into that last half of the day, if you're going to be able to hold this level or not. So I'm not quite believing this move to the upside. Could be bargain hunting going on, people buying up into the close, getting good deals. There's a lot of stocks which are on sale right now, so could very well be like a little short squeeze or a little bargain hunt rally going on. But does it have any legs and keep going? Who knows? So I took one trade early on, up 48 bucks on that, two contracts, and that was it. Now this one here, I wasn't going to trade that from the long side, but you can see how the people are trying to get aggressively trading this on the short side. Unless you're managing your stop and protect yourself, you got stuck in a really bad spot. And if you were massively stubborn this today and they could not realize that you were in a shitty trade, and you started trying to get short on this run the mean here, and you get stuck in this move to the upside. It doesn't matter how much you try to repair that trade, it just keeps grinding higher and you just keep getting deeper and deeper in the hole. It's a great example for why you manage your losses and take them when you're running into a shitty trade. Sometimes, I mean, sometimes you get into the same spot I had on Friday. I got high ticked, right? It got, yes, high ticked out of the trade and then sitting in that's like, oh man, it would have worked out great unless, but that you never know, right? You never know what's going to happen on the trade like that. So you just have to manage it the best you can. And sometimes you get high ticked, sometimes you survive it. So at this point, where one trade, two contracts, and I'm not going to stay on the long side of this. I'm going to look for early strength though. If they close in this area up here, I'm going to be looking for early strength if you can retest and maybe squeeze this higher. But at one point, I'm going to be looking for short setups against the 60s, the 70s, the 56.90s up to the 57.10s until I see a real change in dynamic. And what I'm looking for is really them to get up above this 57.50s. They can get up above this guy, and then we are back in a spot where they can take this higher. But we have some range here to work with. So I'm looking for short opportunities all the way up here for potential moves down. You can see Friday was a really bad day on the downside. Today we ran it lower, and now we're right back pretty much in the middle. This area right there, the 56.50s, is the key area. If they can hold above it, at least we may have a range bound day tomorrow. But if they, depending on what side of that area they close, it depends on, I think, how the overnight is going to turn out. But either way, I'm going to look for early strength and see if they can take this higher, unless we get a big sell-off into the close. But we just have to wait and see on that one. But if they can hold the 56.50s, definitely look for early strength. That it's like 45.50 in this area on my chart. But if you can close at or above this, look for early strength. If they trade below it, I would just start off range bound and then watch these lower areas, 56.15s. And if they close below the 15s, I would just stay on the short side at that point. So that's kind of the way I'm going to approach the overnight. So we'll see how crazy this gets into the close, if they're going to get a nice little pop into the close, or if this is if they're going to see some weakness. But a day like this is brutal. If you get on the long side today against the completely contrarian trade, you would have been in good shape. But yeah, that's not easy to do, and you have to get that trade location. Otherwise, you'll just be twisting in the wind as well. So a lot of rotations, a lot of action, and net to the upside. And so far, it doesn't look like we're getting any relief yet. So that's it for the ES. Looking at the Nasdaq and the bonds, and the bond market is backed off a little bit, but you can see that 117.06 held. They were down just a few ticks below it, but they're right back up again. So back to the mean on the bonds. So I would start off range bound on the bonds, see how far they can take it. If anything, I would look for maybe early weakness to see if we can retest these lows. But I think right now we are pretty much in the middle. So starting off range bound, looking to buy weakness, looking to sell strength. Probably prefer to buy weakness, 17.12s and the 17.05s for rotations back up. But probably starting off range bound in the overnight. Let me see here. On the Nasdaq is also spectacularly good today. Look at it. They're up here against this 19400s. So they made a good move to the upside as well. But they look at these guys. They were down. They took out the lows. They made new lows here down to the 19,000s. And I'm not sure if that's going to be it. I think they may have opted in for maybe testing these lows again, at least trying it. So today, a nice little run up day. We'll see if they can hold on to this. We'll see. It's anyone's guess if they get a second quarter is going to start off with a bang, or if it's going to start off with a whimper and then new lows. So at this point, I'm still looking for short setups. And as I said on the Nasdaq, we have some ways to go. That's on the capital flow chart again. Here's that ledge, 590 to 600. If they can get up above this one, at least we can start off a range bound day. But right now, I'm still staying on the short side until they take that out. So that's the Nasdaq for you. I had tried one trade earlier on Nasdaq today, and that was way early. That was actually a fairly aggressive trade on the early side of things. I was right here at when they started running lower, and got shaken out of that trade pretty early. Had to get a nice move to the downside, but as you can see, after that retracement, there was no shot at getting short again. I did not try another short. Looked like a few opportunities here, but the best one came early. Otherwise, this would have been just a knockdown drag out, squeeze to the upside again. So it just felt too volatile. And when I started seeing that squeeze to the upside, I thinking short side of the market just had to be a little bit less aggressive on the short side when you start seeing that kind of strength. And it looks to me like they're popping it again. So they're running it higher one more time. It's going to be a strong close, looks like, going into this last. If you're not seeing that weakness, you usually would see it like a profit-taking thing. And then finally, oil and gold. Gold, major move to the upside. All right, so that guy is really moving. Big pop. We had that short trade in the morning worked great. That when it took out the 45, 43, 44s. Nice run down here to that single print, C print at 31, and right back up again. I would have definitely, we talked about that short trade this morning, and that definitely was a fast one. It happened quickly and then went right back up again. And now they've been holding in the range. So if throughout the rest of the day, selling the 31.58s and buying against the 44s would have been a great scenario. And the gold has been moving pretty good. So I would start off range bound. I would keep a bias to the upside. I would keep watching that 44 edge. If that comes out at 43, 44, if that comes out again, we may see maybe a little bit stronger move to the downside. And then oil to the upside in a big way. And why is that? Because we have potential for oil tariffs, and oil tariffs are always going to freak out the market. So definitely up on that. So that's a news-related dynamic on oil. They're heading higher and they're repriced to 71.75. So they're kind of up. And I would start off on the long side at this point, see if they can retest these highs, maybe take it lower, but not going to be super aggressive on the long side. We'll see how that oil pans out. Has to do with the Russia situation too. But if they end up with a bunch of oil tariffs on oil and energy, that would be probably a bad sign for short-term oil prices. Anyway, so starting off, we're looking for early strength on oil, looking to buy weakness. If it starts trading below that will be the 70.50s. We can probably look for a retracement trade, but initially looking to buy against these support areas for rotations back up again. So there you go. Gold from the long side or range bound, maybe buys to the upside. Oil from the long side of the market. Let's see how far they can take it. All right, back to the ES, and look at that. Looks like we got the last little pop up here to the 56.70s. So let's see what happens now. Last 15 minutes coming up. That could be very interesting. So we'll see how this whole thing shakes out. All right, guys. I'll leave it there for now, and I'll see you guys back bright and early in the morning. We'll go at this again. So we saw one trade on the ES, the 2 contracts, and then one shakeout on the on NASDAQ today. That's it for me. All right, guys. See you back in the morning. Later.